Riway New Distributor Orientation by Dr. Lim Boon Hong, read by Team Red Footprint. NDO 1. Why Direct Selling? The NDO Basic Training Session is the most important training program in the direct sales industry. Very often, wherever we go, in our direct sales industry, we are bound to have problems when there are people involved. That is the biggest problem. In my many years of experience, the difficulties of direct selling are largely circling about the same issues such as sales, inability to sponsor, cheap prices, fighting and snatching over downlines. These issues are always repetitive in nature. So, wherever I go, these same set of problems are always recurring. For example, back then in mainland China, shuffling around over 20 cities. When I sat down with my members for dinner after our flight landing in China, the kind of problems we heard were all the same. And usually, my answer to these problems would be the same too, which I still managed to get by till this day. Do you wish to know my answer? I will share this during the NDO session. We will share all these answers today. Usually for us direct sales, we do not resolve problems. Sounds weird, isn't it? Why not resolve the problems? Then what is going to happen with the problems left unresolved? Let me tell you, problems are never ending. For example, this person will tell you that person is doing this and that person is doing that. But when you resolve one problem, another problem will surface. Do you believe that? Problem begets problem. The key issues do not lie with that problem. Rather, it is more about the person being exhausted, directionless, and the lack of a bigger, wider mindset and fighting spirit. If you have these problems, others too will have them, right? Why is it that others are successful but you are not? The main problem is not about any specific problem itself, but more holistically about the person being directionless, lacking in strength, and ability to complete the task well. Thus, it is very draining for a leader to resolve issues like these. Worse still, there are leaders who not only are incapable of resolving the problems, but in turn manipulated and influenced by the problems themselves. Therefore, it is vital that we must possess such strength and ability to combat problems. What must we do then? What should we do? We should just smile and nod in agreement. For example, when asked why our company does not have this, I would just nod my head and reply that we are still working hard on this area. Then how do you resolve the problem in the end? Just gather all those people with problems and present the NDO. After the NDO session, you will realize that these problems will disappear. Why? Because you can acknowledge that such problems exist everywhere. Let's say today we go and find a customer. Particularly when we talk to customers about per-tier placenta, will there be problems with customer? Yes, definitely. A lot of problems with them. Especially so when you are presenting the product professionally, such as with regards to how we extract the placenta without killing the deer. The more professional you are in your explanation, the more professional the questions will be from them. For example, they might ask you the type of environment where we extract the placenta from the deer. What is the temperature of extraction? What happens if the deer die during the extraction? What do the deer feed on? Is it fed on fodder or wild grass? If they would ask such kind of questions, would you be able to answer them? Well, it is very difficult to answer. You would be bothered by these questions, and most people will think they will not be able to continue this business if you cannot answer these questions. Is this the case? No, I do not have the answers too, but we just do it. We do not need to have the answers, but can continue doing it. The crux lies in the effect of per-tier placenta consumption rather than those technical aspects of production. The result is more important, not the process. Just like if you buy a television set. Do we need to know the function of those electronic chips inside the TV set? No. We just need to know which button to press for which channel. We also do not need to know about how the LED screen is being manufactured, right? You would not ask the salesman about the material of the button it is made from. That is absurd to ask, and he would not answer. Likewise, for our case, we do not need to answer these questions. Then what do? We create dreams instead of answering questions. When we give them strength, dream, and direction, these questions will be gone. Likewise, with customers, their questions during the talk would also be gone and talking about testimonials. This is how I would address the answer to the customer. Your questions are good, and they also raised similar doubts in me. However, my mother underwent great changes after 6 months of consumption, and this is what happened to her, and so on. Then that day, I attended a testimonial sharing from another person in KL, and that is what happened to that person. I attended another testimonial sharing in Seremban, and this is what has happened to that person. And I attended another testimonial sharing in Kuantan, and this is what has happened to that person. After sharing all these real-life examples, those questions will be gone. They will ask if the stroke patients are able to consume it. The desire to purchase is shown. You need to come out from those questions and not be buried together with the problem. The merit of these NDO sessions is to resolve many problems of attitude and techniques, which are the basics of direct sales. With these basic skills, you would be able to walk a smoother career path. There are 10 points for the NDO training. Let us begin from the second point. 2 ideas, 3 secrets, 4 conditions, 5 principles, 6 steps, 7 things. Are they not simple? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Easy to remember. To succeed in Riway today, we must learn 2 things: NDO and the 10 points. I repeat, we must learn 2 things: NDO and the 10 points. Such easy and simplified 10 points using numbers. If you still find them difficult, then how would you be able to succeed? Today, you know how difficult it is to succeed. Otherwise, everyone in the world would succeed easily, right? The problem is that those who succeed are small, many people are poor. We must acknowledge that we need to sacrifice to succeed. Are you able to do such a kind of sacrifice? If not, what other form of sacrifice can you do with? Let us start from the first point, which is usually the most important of all. Let us look at number 1, the question about why do direct selling? This is a very important question, right? Do you ask yourself too? Why do it? Why do it is more important than how to do it. We want to know why we are all here today. To learn, to enrich ourselves, to learn about a new career. Then why am I here? I am here to give the talk. I am here today because I know the reason for coming here. If I do not have the purpose, no matter how many methods you showed me the way here to Kuantan, I would not have come. If I have a purpose, there are 101 ways of coming, be it by bus, bicycle, crawling, and flight. But if you do not have a purpose, it is meaningless for me to provide you with all the methods. Then why do we do direct sales? Well, most people would say that others would be highly apprised of me, right? No, I would say it is the direct opposite. These days, most people view direct selling people as ghosts. Scary, right? Then why is it weird that so many people are still doing direct sales today? Such a negatively deemed industry? When I travel to other parts of the world, whenever people encounter direct selling people, they avoid them like plague. But we are still passionate about doing it because we know our purpose well. For most people, the main purpose is to earn money. It cannot be that you are here to donate money. Our main purpose is to earn money. Have you heard of this person by the name Robert Kiyosaki? He is the author of this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He is an outstanding entrepreneur and investor and a famous author and lecturer as well. In a particular book that he wrote, he divided the money earned by human beings into 4 categories: the employed, the self-employed in the form of small businesses, businessmen, and investors. We wish to need their respective outcomes of these various professions because whatever we do, we need to know their results. The result is much more important than the whole process. Let us look and analyze them. For the employed group, usually when we compare those university graduates versus primary dropouts, who would earn more? Naturally, the university graduates would be paid more. What is the average age for a university graduate? Someone said 22. That is incredible. And the usual? 25,000 pesos. Well, let us assume there is this brilliant person graduating at 20 years old. But is this case common? No, it is not. If this 20 years old genius brings along his university graduate certificate to seek his first job, let us assume there is this brilliant person graduating at 20 years old. But is this case common? No, it is not. If this 20 years old genius brings along his university graduate certificate to seek his first job, what would be his estimated salary? 15,000 to 18,000? Well, someone quoted 25,000 pesos. That is not rare for this amount. Okay, let us assume I am a good boss and give him 30,000 pesos. 30,000 is the starting amount. Usually, what is the retirement age in the Philippines? 55, 60, 65 years old, right? Let us set it at 60 years old. Easier for calculation. Then my next question is, after working for 40 years, would there be any increment in his salary? Yes, definitely. How about his position? Yes, definitely. Another question is, how much would he have earned nearing his retirement age? 500,000? No, after working for close to 40 years, he cannot earn 500,000 pesos. 100,000? 50,000? Still no. Is it really that pathetic? Roughly how much? 10,000 pesos. Is it considered high? No, but not many people earn such high pay. Since I am a good boss, I would give him 200,000 pesos. This final point will drop downwards. In other words, after claiming his final salary sum of 200,000 pesos, would there be any more salary for next month? No, he would have no more money. Would there be any more salary for next month? No, he would have no more money. At most, the boss would give him a long service plaque or the best service award, and maybe, if the boss is better, he would give him 5 days, 4 nights Boracay trip, right? Or ask him to go home to sleep or give him a kite to fly at home. This is the outcome for the employed group. Do you agree? In fact, it is the best possible outcome in the case of a good boss and provided that the company does not collapse throughout that 40 years. During such a situation when he looks for another job, is the salary higher or lower than the previous one? Lower, right? It has to be. Then it will rise slightly after a few years and finally drop towards the end. This is the result of being employed. Do you want to be employed? No. The salary is stagnant. This is the case for being employed. Not just you, but for most people, they do not wish to be employed. Most would wish to start their own business. When he sees a food vendor across the street, he would wish to copy it. When he sells insurance or property, he depends on himself. Because he wants to depend on himself and not others to limit his salary earned, right? I do not want my boss to write my paycheck, but rather myself to write my own paycheck. So he would come out to start his own business. For some cases like doctors or lawyers, they are being paid for every operation and lawsuit they do. This group of people is classified as self-employed or small business owners for using their individual time, effort, and technique to earn money for themselves. These people are called small business owners, self-employed. Such group usually requires low or zero startup capital. Why? Because they do not have an income and depends solely on themselves. At first, they would start out full of energy and give all out in whatever they do to reap in money. But if they were to fall sick and land in hospital, would there be any more income? No, so it will drop. After discharged, they would continue to be motivated and work hard, but there would be ups and downs in doing so, and thus, this income is unstable. Ultimately, when they stop working, the income would become stagnant too. There is also a downward trend in income with aging issue. For self-employed group, their income will end when they stop working. If I want to be a businessman like Manny Pangilinan, or do big businesses like Bill Gates, does big business require big investment? Yes, and then let's look at the outcome of doing big business. Big business always starts from the negative point and not from the 0 point. Without 10 million pesos of startup capital, it is not considered as a business venture. Then what do we do with this amount? Let's say our organization startup needs some talents to design a system in the form of branding to run our company into a marketable product for acquisition by other larger companies. All these efforts require a big sum of capital. If we were to pump all 10 million pesos into it, would it necessarily rise in value? Not necessary. It might even plunge downwards immediately, because the daily bills, talents, and products all cost money. Next, if we look at how much time the employed groups would take to earn up to 10 million pesos, 6 or 9 months, or never even for a lifetime of work. Why? Because money comes in and goes out. Everything costs money. For big business starting up, they would borrow from the bank, next from their friends and relatives. They would even ask their mother to dig out all her money from the biscuit tin. Usually, these are the scenarios. On the other hand, let us also consider the best scenario where the income rises to recoup startup capital pumped in. For most people, it takes around 2 to 3 years, while others require 3 to 5 years. But it may be hard to predict. I personally give it a question mark because you need to do business before you know it, as cash flow is always very tight in running business. It is always difficult to pay off debts, so the amount of time and money invested is called risk. Many people are afraid of such risk as the earnings may drop any moment. For example, the talents you nurtured painstakingly would rub you off half your clients with a new startup company opposite you. Whenever you make big bucks, others would join in to share a part of the pie. Then let's consider a positive case where the person rakes in big earnings, but it also poses a problem of expanding your business, such as relocating to a bigger place, recruiting more talents, and getting more product supply. All these big sums of money required for business expansion would further incur new debts from the bank loans. So, the earnings will drop. If your investments are correct, it will go up. Likewise, if your investment is wrong, it will drop further. As the business becomes saturated, the earnings would gradually fall to a stagnant point as well. Would the income rise abruptly like this and without requiring much startup capital? Is there such a case without capital? Well, it cannot be. It is already very difficult to maintain the business well too, let alone reaping in high profits. Statistics have shown that with 10,000 startup companies being set up, 20 years later, only one will survive. Within 10 years, 100 companies will become one company. Not to mention after 30 or 40 years. This translates to a 0.01% chance of maintaining a company for 20 years. In other words, 99.99% are the failure cases. Thus, many people are naturally apprehensive of sacrificing so much money and effort for such a low success rate. A lot of people are scared. But are there any bold people around? Yes, there are. Out of the 10,000 bold people, 9,999 would be dead if they ventured to start up a business. That is why you often hear people saying doing business would cause you to become bankrupt. The risk is far too high. Let us then talk about investment. When it comes to investment, you need to have money. When you have less money, you invest small. Similarly, if you have more money, you invest big. Big investment involves bigger risks, but it also reaps bigger profits, while small investments reap lower profits. Though it should not be considered as income, we are going to talk about income. The only income that you will have when we have big investments such as property and stocks, it involves a greater risk, but the profits are better too. As I have always mentioned, whatever profession you are in, you need to be an expert. For investment, if you do it blindly, you will lose. Just like gambling, one tends to lose 9 times out of 10. So we need to behave like an expert. Learn more about that profession, and it is not easy to discern facts from myths. One must have good foresight and possess the prerequisite to do well in investment. But such a success rate is rare. Let us then look at direct selling. Consider the theoretical aspect first before the practical. Do we need capital for direct sales? Do we need capital to do Riway? If yes, then how much do we need? 135,000 pesos. If I want to invest in Riway, I need to come up with 135,000 pesos. 135,000 pesos is to buy the Portier placenta, not to run Riway. Do we need money to buy the placenta? Do we need money to buy iPhone? Yes, but by buying iPhone, Apple does not give you the chance to do business without forking any capital, unlike buying Portier. Riway gives you an opportunity to allow you to do business with zero capital. The only amount that you invested to use is to buy the product. Buying product needs money. Just like whatever you buy, they all cost money. The other time I saw something fantastic on Facebook. It said something like, "We need to get your mindset correct in a paragraph of words." For example, it is not the things we sell that are expensive, but rather it is that we are selling expensive goods. Is there a difference? Yes, the slight change in wordings is great. So please understand that we are selling expensive products. Let us then just cast aside the Portier placenta, since we already acknowledged its intrinsic value. We have been operating not for 5 days or 5 months, but 14 years plus. Riway requires zero startup capital and starts from the 0 point. That is to say, no matter how badly you fare, what is the result? 0, right? Will you immediately land yourself in debts by forking out a lot every month? No, that is not possible. Thus, the first point about direct sales marketing is that it carries zero risk, which means there is no risk involved. Next, the number 2 point is that it always starts from you as the only person. Just like it just takes me alone to run Riway. But when I find another person, we have 2 people. When I find another person, we have 2 people. This means that the multiplication becomes 2. If the multiplication is 3, it means that everyone has managed to find one more. Thus, the total number of people will become 8. The same formula applies and goes on till the 10 times multiplication. 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024. Let us just say it will be around 1,000 people in a team. If I just need to find one person each year, is it too much to ask? Too much to ask to just find one person? Yes, it is indeed too ridiculous to find just one person each year. Let us assume one person only finds one person each year. How many new members would be recruited over 10 years? 1,000. And if we assume each person let you earn just 2,500 pesos, how much is your total earnings? 2,500,000 pesos. One new member per person per year will only result in 1,000 persons in 10 years. But if each person recruits one new member per month, there will be 10,000 new members by the end of 10 months. If one new people recruits one new member per day, there will be 1,000 new members by the end of 10 days. Now the main point is not on the 10th day, but the 11th day. How many people will there be? The number rises to 2,000 and by the 12th day becomes 4,000. By the 13th day, 8,000, and by the 14th day, 16,000 persons. And if each person just earns you 2,500 pesos, your total amount of earnings would be horrendous. This is direct sales. This is multiplication. When it is not affected by time, it means that even if you do not work, you would still earn income. When you have stopped working, you would continue to receive your income. In fact, the graph shows you that this income will continue to grow. This is no longer a theory. Just now, I was talking about the theoretical basis. Today, when you search through the computer system of Riway, tracing from July 2008 onwards till today, the total earnings over the years would look something like what the graph has shown. It means that Riway has achieved multiplication. It has managed to reap in profits not just 2 times multiplication, but 3 times multiplication. 3 times or more of the original earnings. You will know it when you have looked at our sales record. If you analyzed it closely each year, the profits are 3 times the actual total profit to its original amount of earnings. This represents the reason why we are doing direct sales. What does this represent? This shows that even if we stopped working, the money continues to grow. We called it passive income. That means even if I do not work, there is still income. Now, what is passive income? It simply means that even if I do not work, there is still income. Is there such an income on earth? Yes. For instance, if I buy a house and rent it for 100,000 pesos per month, do you need to work to get this amount? No, regardless of whatever you do, be it sleeping or eating, this 100,000 pesos is going to be your regular income per month. This is called income without the need to work. May I ask for a monthly rental of 100,000 pesos? How much do I have to pay for buying such a house? Do you have such an experience? For example, if I want to rent out a house for 100,000 pesos per month, how much would my house cost? The amount that I must pay to buy such a house would be 30 million pesos to 50 million pesos. If it does not cost so much, you will not be able to rent out at 100,000 pesos. I am already very humble about it. I know the price. Will this rental fee of 100,000 increase to 200,000 after 3 months? 300,000? Nope. It will remain stagnant. Even in times of good economy, you can at most receive an increase to 100,000 or 125,000. It would not multiply by itself suddenly. In other words, if you wish to multiply your rental earnings to increase my rental of 100,000 pesos to 200,000 pesos, I will need to pump out another 30 billion to 50 million to buy another house. This calls for a bigger investment each time, and each investment carry high risk. Let me say if I can offer you a passive income with zero risk in it. Do you want it? Yes, of course, as you do not have to work for it. Now let me offer you a method of getting passive income, and that is Riway. How much passive income does Riway offer me? How much passive income is considered enough for me to continue working and be a winner? Since birth, when we are brought to this world, there are two games that we must play. The first one is the game of health, and the second is the game of money, which I'm going to talk about later. Now, what happens if we lose the game of health? Well, a lot of people would say die. But no, that is not true. You die not because you lose the game, but how you lose it. For example, during my many years of experience marketing health products to customers, I would often describe all the merits of the effects of these products have on them, and sometimes I out-talk them, leaving them speechless and thus buying the products in the end without any reasons to reject me. Sometimes they would use the final tactic of assuming even if I am all healthy and bubbly after eating the products. What happens if they get knocked down by a car on the road? I would say to them that getting knocked down by a car is still alright. People die one day, no matter how, but what I am worried about is that you wouldn't die after being knocked down by the car. That will be scary. Because if your limbs are broken, intestines being stabbed through by hard metal pieces, rendering them to be dysfunctional, and that you must end up on the bed as a paralyzed person and need your loved ones to take care of you for the rest of your life, then that is scary. But let us not talk about accidents and other causes. Will it be possible to land yourself in such terrible situations? Yes, because there are so many incurable diseases in the world today. Top 10 deadly diseases remain largely the same. All of you should be aware that about 50,000 of the people died from these top 10 diseases. 50% means that 1 in every 2 persons, so it is either you or me. The fact is, it's more terrible to catch such tormenting deadly diseases than death itself. Now, it is essential for us to remind each other about such important issues under the same setting. Reminding others also mean reminding oneself about the situation and how to be aware of it. Let me ask you, is stroke scary? Yes, of course it is, without any sensation. In the past, we can still see news of heart attack deaths on newspapers. But now we do not, because they are far too common to be deemed as newsworthy anymore. When we hear someone dying from heart attack, we can only offer our condolences to the family. Another analogy is suffering from toothache. Is it painful? Yes, it can be so painful until you suffer from acute headache though, just a few days before it can get recovered. But just for those few days alone, you can almost die from the acute pain. That is only flu and headache alongside with toothache, and you can already feel so much of pain for just a few days. Can you imagine how it feels to suffer from stroke, diabetes, heart attack, and other heartly diseases? These diseases are not that easy to cure. Once you are struck by these diseases, you will be affected by it for the rest of your life. Thus, we cannot afford to lose in the game of health. Once you are struck by the disease, you will be bankrupt. Even if you were to be a billionaire, once contracted colon cancer, even billions would not buy you a new colon. That is it. You are ruined. Being bankrupted is still not so bad. The worst is that you implicate those around you to become bankrupted. And the worst, you will die in the end after wasting so much money. Now, when you hear these anecdotes, you laugh them off. But in our healthcare profession, it is vital to stress upon the importance of health. Now, for the last 24 hours, what are the beneficial things that you have done to make your health better? What is the amount of time and money you spent within the last 24 hours on your health since you regard it as very important? I'm assuming not at all. Not only did you do nothing, but you also make your body work harder by having poor lifestyle and unhealthy diet. Everybody else is doing the same. These explained why so many of them struck the deadly diseases. How many would exercise self-constraint on the choice of healthy food? How many would spend the effort to walk or run more to build a healthier body? No, none within the last 24 hours, correct? All the time, we are just using our mouth to stress upon the importance of health and not execute it towards our customers. What are we doing? That is self-deceit. Are we deceiving ourselves? We always remind our customers to watch out for their health, but not for ourselves. We are always telling other people to watch out for their health, but what about ourselves? We only talk. This is what you call self-deceit. And I also wish to remind all of you that Portier placenta is not enough. Do not always refer Portier placenta for all kinds of diseases, be it stroke, diabetes, heart attack, fever, flu, or even summon. What on earth does summon have to do with Portier placenta? Some of the distributors in Riway are so extreme that they eat Portier placenta when they get summoned. What does summon got to do with Portier placenta? Why are they so weird? That is really the extreme case. Summon has nothing to do with Portier placenta at all. Thus, we need to be more rational about it. We know clearly that eating Portier placenta is beneficial to our health because it is a supplement product. But that is not enough, as it is essentially your own health. Have you heard of someone who succumbed to the temptation of the fatty, oily pig trotters on the basis that he is eating Portier placenta? This is clearly self-deceit. Therefore, we must be disciplined in the type of food we eat. We heard about others commenting on how disciplined we are in abstaining from many types of unhealthy food. Then why are we leading such a torture life? Be relaxed and eat first, then worry about it tomorrow. Most people are like that. But we need to tell them that for any fruitful labor in the future, we need to make a sacrifice today. We need to make sacrifice for a healthier body. Otherwise, you would need to make an even bigger sacrifice. For example, a terminally ill disease. I say regardless of your likes and dislikes, you must make some form of sacrifice. But for some people, they prefer to make the bigger sacrifice at the end and not before something terrible happen. I really do not understand why, but this is how life is. Whether you like it or not, happy or not, to succeed, you need to make sacrifices. Likewise, if you fail, you also need to make a sacrifice. What price do you need to pay for failing? You would be despised by others. You would be despised by others, squeezing bus with others, and put up with their stares. Similarly, for success, you need to be hardworking, not afraid of others' rejection, and to build a strong mind of resistance. Health is the same too. I exercise to get a healthier body without suffering from any form of disease. You must build a strong body to combat against all the deadly diseases. To so-called win in the game of health, this is the first game. For the second game, the game of money, let us see how we can win. We must complete such formula or equation. On passive income, we should deduct the total expenses, which means the income is not the income you materially participate, minus the expenses that you need to spend on such as eating, shopping, miscellaneous costs, and this amount must be greater than zero. If it indicates that there is still money left after your expense from the total sum of passive income, you have won. This means that you do not need to work anymore. You have won already. You do not need to accumulate your passive income. Usually, that is how it applies to playing games. The game of life is like an NBA basketball game. NBA is divided into 4 quarters. And just like NBA, life is divided into 4 quarters. The first quarter is 20 to 29 years old. The second is 30 to 39 years old. The third quarter is 40 to 49 years old, and the final one is 50 to 59 years old. For those in the first quarter, like it or not, you would have to play the game of money when you first step out to society to work. Even going home here cost money. Everything nowadays costs money. For the first quarter group, what they hope to achieve is to fulfill the formula. Some people win the game after 10 years. For others, they want it after 5 years. What do they do after winning the game of money? They bid goodbye to you and left for their dreams. They went to do and buy whatever they fancy. They have won and need not work anymore. For most people who lost during the first quarter, what happens to them? Just go on to the second quarter and play the game again. What if they lose again during the second quarter? Proceed next to the third quarter to play again. Now what happens if they lose again? Just go on to the final quarter to play for the last time. If they still lose in the end, just like a basketball match, they can request for extra timeout or overtime. I'm not sure about the situation in Kuantan, but in Singapore, many people work overtime in McDonald's. Most of the employees working at McDonald's or the petrol kiosk are the old people. You see the old security guard in your condominium? What are they doing? It's overtime. What must they still work at such an old age? Why such tragic state fall on them? Well, there's 2 reasons. Number 1, no one ever taught them about such rules of the game, that the game is to be played like that. I must say, for those youngsters, you are very lucky to be able to know this. Number 2, though they know about the game, they do not know how to win the game. No one ever taught them how to win the game. The key issue now lies with the passive income. Now everyone has their own expenses. The crux lies in here. Do you have any method of earning passive income which can self-multiply on its own? If you do not have, I have one offer for you here, and that is Riway. Why do I say that Riway can? If I mentioned this 5 years ago, then you had better not believe me. But there were some people who still believed in me then. 5 years ago, no one has achieved it yet. But today, there are many leaders who have accomplished this passive income. If I were to tie and lock them inside the room for a year and prevent them from going out, would there still passive income be coming in? Yes, and continuing to multiply in the amount to the extent that no one would believe in the incredulous amount reaped. A lot of people do not believe it, but it has happened in Riway. And since it happens in Riway, it can happen to you too. It will happen if you choose to work in Riway. Do understand direct sales marketing and the rationale of doing Riway, because you need to win this game. If not, is there any better alternatives? Well, I guess none. Riway is proven already. It offers you the faster method that has been proved to be effective. After understanding the rationale, let us then look at how we can achieve.